I seem to be able to put my feelings down in a song easier than I can talk about it. I play me better than anybody.
They used to call him the Buddha of country music, the calm soul with nothing but love in his chest. But at 92, that peaceful glow is cracking wide open. Willie Nelson isn't sitting around preaching harmony anymore. He's pulling the curtains back and letting all the smoke roll out. Now he's naming 7 artists who crossed him, disrespected his beliefs, or flipped friendship into full-blown rivalry. Some were legends he admired, some were people he once called family, and one name on this list? Nobody ever thought Willie would have heat with them. Number 1, Garth Brooks, the superstar Willie never trusted. Right at the top of Willie Nelson's list sits the man the whole world calls a hero, Garth Brooks. The irony still makes old Nashville insiders look around like, did this really happen? Garth built a massive empire on country music's back, but Willie swears he also drained the soul right out of it. Back in the 90s, while Willie was still rolling through dusty fairgrounds with Trigger sitting across his lap, Garth was blasting through packed arenas with fireworks, lasers, and stadium-level drama. Fans called it magic, but Willie felt like he was watching the funeral of real country music, and he wasn't shy about saying it. "You can't sell struggle if you never lived it," Willie told one of his bandmates after watching Garth perform Friends in Low Places like it was some kind of Broadway show. That comment alone had folks whispering in every Nashville bar. But things got even hotter in 2004 at the Country Music Hall of Fame ceremony. On stage, Garth gave Willie a big glowing smile and called him the conscience of country music, and the cameras ate it up. But backstage, Willie hit him with a cold stare and whispered, "Next time, sing it like you mean it." That one line tore through Nashville like a storm hitting dry grass. From that night forward, Willie shut down every duet offer, every shared stage moment, and every photo request involving Garth Brooks, like the bridge had burned clean to the ground. On stage, Garth flashed that big smile and called Willie the conscience of country music, and the crowd ate it up like it was a historic moment. But backstage, Willie hit him with a cold, sharp stare and whispered, "Next time, sing it like you mean it." That one little line ran through Nashville like lightning striking dry timber. From that moment forward, Willie shut down every duet request, every chance to share a stage, every camera moment tied to Garth Brooks. He felt Garth had turned the genre he loved into something he called plastic perfection, and he couldn't stand being anywhere near it. Number 2, Shania Twain, the queen who cracked Willie's trust in country music. Willie Nelson never cared about glitter, flash, or fancy stages, but Shania Twain's style had him heated in ways nobody expected. He once joked that her concerts looked more Vegas than Nashville, and the wild part, he wasn't joking at all. That line had folks whispering long after he said it. For a man who built his whole life on raw, unpolished honesty, watching Shania turn heartbreak into tight choreography felt like a punch to the gut. Their quiet feud kicked off in the late 90s when Shania's crossover hits, "Man, I Feel Like a Woman," and "That Don't Impress Me Much" took over every radio station in America. Nashville was celebrating, but Willie was fuming under the surface. He told a touring sound engineer, "Country's supposed to bleed, not sparkle." And that quote spread across town faster than a runaway rumor. Pretty soon, everybody knew Willie wasn't rocking with the pop country wave Shania was steering, and that tension only got heavier. The breaking point came at the CMA Awards when Shania won Entertainer of the Year. Willie sat just a few rows behind her looking stone cold, and even though cameras caught him clapping politely, backstage he muttered to a friend, "Entertainer maybe? But that ain't country?" That line stung the whole industry. Moments later, Shania walked over with a smile and reached out for a handshake, but Willie just nodded once and stepped right past her like the conversation was already over. Some people called it pride, but Willie called it honesty, plain and simple. He believed she traded truth for trends, pain for polish, and soul for sequins. Even today, if someone brings up her name around him, he switches the topic fast, real fast. And for a man who's forgiven almost everybody who ever crossed him, Shania Twain is still the one who never found her way back into his circle. Number 3, Waylon Jennings, the brother who turned his back. Out of everyone on Willie Nelson's list, the name that cuts the deepest is Waylon Jennings, because this wasn't some media-made feud. This was real family. These two built the outlaw country movement side by side, two rebels kicking down Nashville's rule book together, but underneath that brotherhood, something heavy was simmering. Jealousy, frustration, and long stretches of silence that said more than words ever could. Willie always saw Waylon as a true brother, someone who fought for real music instead of fake fame. But when the industry spotlight hit Waylon hard, he started drifting toward the same shine they used to laugh about. Their bond slowly cracked under ego, exhaustion, and the kind of pressure only legends understand. To outsiders, it looked like another celebrity fallout. But to Willie, it felt like a deep cut straight to the heart. Even years later, he never fully forgave Waylon for walking away from what they built together, and that wound stayed open. When people bring up the outlaw era today, Willie still murmurs, "It wasn't supposed to end like that," and you can hear the heartbreak in his voice. It all began with fame and how it twisted something pure between them. By the late 70s, Waylon Jennings was tired of every headline reading Willie and Waylon instead of Waylon and Willie. And even though it sounds small, in Nashville that kind of detail hits hard. The tension ate at him until he started slipping, showing up late to sessions, drinking more, and arguing over songwriting credits like every word was a battlefield. People close to the pair said Waylon would roll his eyes whenever someone called Willie the face of outlaw country, and the jealousy became something nobody could ignore. Then came the breaking point. One night in the studio, Waylon snapped and yelled, "You're too stoned to play straight." Willie didn't argue, didn't yell back, didn't match his energy. He just smiled gently and stayed quiet. But that silence hit Waylon harder than any comeback ever could. Their friendship cracked right there and it never healed. During a joint interview in the early 80s, Waylon half-joked to reporters that Willie was a hippie in cowboy boots who forgot where he came from. The press laughed like it was all fun, but Willie didn't laugh at all. He simply stood up and walked away once the cameras stopped rolling. And that quiet exit was the real ending. He never called again. And that silence said more than any argument ever could. When Waylon passed in 2002, Willie didn't show up at the funeral. He just sent flowers with a note that read, "See you on the road somewhere." Folks close to him said that was Willie's final goodbye, a peaceful mask, covering the truth that the wound between them never healed. Number 4. Toby Keith, the patriot who pushed way too far. Willie Nelson didn't just dislike Toby Keith, he straight up couldn't stand what Toby turned country music into. Their clash wasn't about melody or style, it was about pride, politics, and the soul of what music should stand for. Willie once said, "A guitar should never wave a flag," and everybody knew exactly who that line was aimed at. Their tension sparked in the early 2000s, right after Toby dropped "Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue." The song hit big for some people, but to Willie, it felt like propaganda wearing a cowboy hat. Things exploded at a veteran benefit concert in Austin. Willie came to play for unity and healing, but Toby stormed the stage, waving flags, chanting slogans, and flipping the night into something that felt more like a rally than a show. Willie watched from backstage with pure disappointment boiling inside him. When Toby walked off, Willie stopped him and said, "You're using music to fight, not to heal." Toby just laughed and kept walking, and that was the moment everything between them snapped for good. From that day on, Willie refused every festival, charity event, or lineup that had Toby's name attached. Behind closed doors, he called Toby's whole act a commercial wrapped in camouflage, and the phrase spread through Nashville like a quiet warning. Years later, Toby tried to make peace through a mutual friend, sending word that he meant no harm, but Willie didn't send anything back. Not a call, not a message, nothing. He just told his crew, "I've met louder men, but not many emptier ones." That line shut the door permanently. After that, Nashville adopted an unspoken rule. If Toby Keith was on the poster, Willie Nelson was automatically out, no questions asked. Number 5, Merle Haggard, the friend who crossed the line. When Merle Haggard took a jab at Willie Nelson, it wasn't just another artist tossing shade. It was a brother striking a nerve. These two legends had shared tour buses, cheap motel rooms, backstage stories, and songs that helped shape the whole outlaw country movement brick by brick. But somewhere between the long roads and the long memories, something shifted. Merle forgot that, but Willie never did. It started small. Little jokes during interviews about how Willie's weed activism had turned him into a mascot instead of a musician. At first, Willie shrugged it off because he'd heard every joke in the book, but then Merle said it again. This time, live on stage with Willie sitting just a few feet away. "Weed's a lazy man's crutch," Merle said into the mic, and the crowd exploded with laughter. Willie didn't crack a smile. He just kept strumming, finished the set with that calm, steady posture, then walked straight to the tour bus without a word. That silence hit harder than any comeback ever could. From that night forward, their bond wasn't just cracked, it was shattered in a way no song or apology could glue back together. Everyone behind the scenes felt the shift instantly. The joint album Willie and Merle had quietly been planning, it vanished from the schedule overnight, like it never existed at all. Willie's manager even started rejecting Merle's calls one by one, and fans were confused because they kept asking when the two legends would reunite. But the truth was, they never did, and that chapter stayed closed. Years later, when Merle tried to make peace, Willie finally responded. But his words were soft and sharp at the same time. Some things you don't joke about. It wasn't anger anymore. It was pure heartbreak speaking, and heartbreak leaves a different kind of mark. When Merle passed in 2016, Willie called him one of the greats, but added, "Never one of my best friends," and that missing phrase cut deeper than any insult could. Their brotherhood didn't end with yelling, rage, or public drama. It ended with quiet distance, the kind of silence no melody could ever repair. Number 6, Kris Kristofferson, and the words Willie never forgave. Can one single sentence really destroy 40 years of friendship? For Willie Nelson and Kris Kristofferson, the answer was yes. These two weren't just partners. They were brothers who survived fame, heartbreak, long nights, long roads, and enough wild stories to fill a whole library. But one careless line flipped everything upside down. It all went down at a private fundraiser in the mid-2000s, inside a smoky room filled with songwriters, whiskey glasses, quiet murmurs, and reporters trying to blend into the shadows. Willie had just finished performing a soft political ballad about farm workers and war, something straight from the heart. But when he stepped off stage, everything shifted. Kris, half-buzzed and surrounded by friends, leaned in and said, "Willie's turned into more of a mascot than a musician." Laughter burst out around him, but none of it came from Willie. Witnesses said Willie froze for a second, like the air had been knocked out of him, then turned and walked straight outside without a single word. By the next morning, his assistant canceled their upcoming duet, and after that, every call from Kris went straight to silence. When people later asked Willie about the falling out, all he said was, "Sometimes words don't fade, they stain." That was the only explanation he ever gave the public, and it told the whole story. Kris tried to apologize through a mutual friend, but Willie wouldn't take the call. He simply said, "You don't get to call me brother after that." And just like that, 40 years of loyalty vanished in a single night. It didn't end with shouting. It ended with a door quietly closing forever. Number 7, Kid Rock, the wild one who crossed the line. When Willie Nelson agreed to record with Kid Rock, fans thought it would be a crazy, once-in-a-lifetime matchup that blended two worlds in the best way. But what was supposed to be fun turned into one of the messiest studio fallouts Willie ever experienced, and people still talk about it. They met in Nashville around 2008 during Kid Rock's so-called Southern Outlaw phase. He pitched Willie a loud, rebellious anthem mixing country grit with rock-style chaos, and Willie, always open to taking creative chances, said yes. But the moment Kid Rock walked into the studio, beer in hand, blasting his own tracks over the monitors, Willie felt something was off. Musicians who were there said Kid ignored every bit of direction, yelling, "Let it be raw," while drowning Willie's vocals under layers of distortion. Willie tried to bring some balance, suggesting a gentler arrangement, but Kid just laughed and said, "Come on, old man, loosen up." That line was the final straw. Without a single word, Willie calmly took off his headphones, stood up, and walked right out of the studio. No drama, no shouting, just a door closing behind him, and the session ended instantly, leaving a thick silence hanging in the air like smoke. The track was never released, and when a journalist later asked what happened, Willie simply said, "Some fires are better left unlit." That calm answer fooled the public, but behind it was real disappointment and a level of disgust he didn't bother trying to hide anymore. From that day forward, Willie turned down every single offer to work with Kid Rock again. To Willie, Kid Rock wasn't an outlaw, just another loud voice with nothing real to stand on. After decades of peace, rebellion, heartbreak, and broken bonds, Willie Nelson now stands in a place very few legends ever reach, alone, but completely unshaken. 92 years of songs, scars, and lessons have carved him into something bigger than fame itself. People still recognize the braids, the guitar, the calm smile, but behind that peaceful face is a man who has buried too many friendships and watched the very industry he helped build twist into something he barely recognizes. Outsiders might say his grudges look bitter, but the ones who truly know him say it's proof of how deeply he still cares. Willie never held hate without reason. Every feud, every fallout came from protecting something sacred to him. He fought for truth in music, honesty in lyrics, and respect for the roots of country when everyone else chased glitter, trends, and politics, while others ran after spotlights. Willie kept chasing the soul of the music, and he never apologized for it. He never wanted perfect. He wanted real. Even now at 92, his memory is sharp, and his words still carry weight that can quiet a whole room. When he speaks, Nashville listens, even the ones who pretend they don't. Because wrapped inside every feud and every moment of silence is a message he's been teaching for decades. You can forgive a mistake, but you can't forgive the loss of meaning. The names who crossed him, Brooks, Twain, Jennings, Keith, Haggard, Christopherson, and Kid Rock, each one left a different type of mark. Some wounds cut deep, some faded slow, but all of them remind us that even legends bleed when loyalty breaks. Still, Willie isn't defined by anger. He's defined by truth, and that's exactly what makes his story hit so hard. He's never been interested in destroying anyone. He's just done pretending everything is fine when it isn't. For him, peace isn't about faking a smile through the pain. It's about standing tall, guitar in hand, saying what everyone else is too scared to say. And whether you see him as the last outlaw or the last honest man in country music, one thing stays solid. Willie Nelson never sold his soul for fame, and he never bowed to the glitter. He stayed real while the rest chased spotlights, and maybe that's why his story feels so powerful today. Because in a world full of noise, Willie still knows the value of silence, the kind that speaks louder than any song and lasts longer than any apology. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if this story hit your heart, and don't forget to subscribe to RumorFame for more deep dives, wild history, and real legends. Share this video and stick around. More stories are coming your way, and you won't want to miss the next one.